This is the Dallas Morning News.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into SportsDay Insider presented by the Dallas Morning News. I am Kevin Sherrington, joined by my pal Evan Grant. In a little while, we'll have Calvin Watkins on to talk about Cowboys and training camp starting, and Jerry Jones doing impersonations of Jerry Jones.
It's been a while since you've been on. Do you remember how to do this?
Sure. It was like 2 weeks ago.
My God, it was much longer than that.
It only seemed like that to the listeners too.
Here's how long ago it was, Kevin. It felt like the Rangers were going to be selling.
Yeah, well, that could have been 20 minutes ago too. And depending on whether the owner gets his way or not, that might still be the case, at least partially. So we need to talk about that. So we were all out there the other night not the other night. It was actually, if we're taping this, that was that 2 days ago? Monday?
Yeah, you don't write at night anymore.
I write at night all the time. But it is much nicer to write because of our new deadlines, which we love our new deadlines. Because of our new deadlines, we prefer those afternoon games. They work better. So that's all good. But anyway, that was fun being out there and seeing everybody. Everybody's getting along. That's nice to see. Evan was really working that clubhouse before the game on Monday. I mean, my gosh, he's going around talking to everybody. And then at one point, he's talking to poor Jake Berger, and it just got brutal. I mean, Berger was kind of looking out of the corners of his eyes like, is there a way for me to get out of this? And so after a little while later, I told Berger, listen, you need to develop a little signal here. And if there's a problem, here you just kind of raise one finger or something. I'll come over, pat the top of your head. I'll come over and get Evan and pull him away. But,
what happened in that game with Jake Berger?
He had a pretty good game. The guys you talked to, him, Jock Peterson. Who else did you talk to?
I talked to Nemo. He had a double.
Everybody did well that Evan talked to. So Evan's taking credit for that big win over the Mariners. I got to tell you, I did not see three out of four wins, and they came within one inning of sweeping the Mariners. That was phenomenal. It's one of those things we're going to look back on though and say, either see, look, they got hot there and then deluded themselves into thinking that they were, contenders, and so then they bled their system even more dry than it already is, and what a mistake that was. Or we'll say, my gosh, that was the road to the World Series title right there.
Yeah, I mean, but you can go back a little bit further, Kevin.
Do you want to swallow those pills before you finished talking?
Yeah, I've got all those pills. If you go back to the end of May, I think this team is 29-21 now, and it's the second or third best record in the American League. I know it hasn't been sexy baseball, but for a period of time here, they've played pretty good baseball, all in all.
Yeah, they have. It's been different, Well, and look, and this is one of those things where you could talk about deluding yourselves. You get 5 quality innings from Cal Quantrill. Although that throw home on the force play was maybe the worst throw in the history of baseball. The worst looking.
Now, let me interrupt you right here. All right, you're gonna rip on that throw. The guy throws 5 shutty innings, takes it into the 6th. On that throw, they doubled off the fastest runner in baseball to end a bases loaded 1-out inning, a 1-out situation. And you're going to talk about the throw floating too much. He got it there, and then Austin wins the greatest catching pickup in history, homers, to give the Rangers more momentum.
I thought the greatest catching pickup in history was Elias Diaz.
Until Austin Wins came around.
They just go from one catcher to the next. How many catchers are they going to end up using this season?
Well, they've only used 4. I mean, they used the 2 starters, and I don't think that the number of catchers that they've used is all that outlandish. It's just that they've gotten outsized contributions from guys who were neither prospects nor in their system at the beginning of the year.
Well, you said that in a lot of places too, right? Nicky Lopez, right? Who says that at second base? I mean, comes in and it plays really well, plays great defense. And I will say this about him too. Boy, he has some great at bats.
10 pitch at bat last night. Listen, and I tweeted this twice last night on at bats that he had in the win over Tampa Bay, which again was another impressive win, and really does hammer home for me. I think this team has really taken on the personality and the identity of Skip Schumacher type baseball, and Lopez personifies that. He's a contact hitter. He's great at situational opportunities that don't necessarily require a slug. He can be productive by making an out, and I hate to say that that's a skill, but it's something that gets overlooked, and he's proved a value with that this year.
Well, he's a pretty good defensive second baseman as well.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this last night when I was watching the game, and I would like to ask Skip that question. If you got a guy that he's not going to be a great hitter, and listen, Nicky Knox, that whole thing, that's just a temporary deal. He's not going to hit like this the rest of his life. He's having a career year, and more power to him. That's all great. But there's a place in my lineup. If I'm going to have to just patch together a lineup, a guy who can have a 10, 11, or even maybe a 12 pitch at bat. I mean, think of what that does to the pitcher in general. To see him foul off pitch after pitch after pitch. He was fouling off pitches out of the strike zone. That's frustrating, and you're working up the pitch count on these guys. That's invaluable because you see that because right after his at bat, Josh Smith goes up and pops up on the first pitch, and that was so much the identity of the Rangers, was it not? I mean, you saw that time and again.
100%. I mean, to your point, that's kind of what they have done for most of the last 3 years. Is they've swung early, swung hard, and popped the ball up. And I think that they are taking tougher at bats now. We talk about the 10-pitch walk, but Wins had a 9-pitch walk earlier in the game, and it was against Griffin Jacks, the starter, and so that was part of really amping up the starting pitcher's pitch count that made it, that kind of got him out of the game earlier. So I think their at bats are tougher now. I think that there is a philosophy of what can I do in this at bat to move the inning along, not just where can I hit the ball hard. It's what can I do to move the inning along. You go back and look at Berger's home run on Monday, right? And that was a situation where it was very clear to me that he was trying to hit a sacrifice fly. It was a really nice, easy reach out swing. He happened to get I think it was a slider that just hung, and with his power, he drove it out. But he wasn't looking to try and homer there. He was looking to just try and make contact and get the ball in the air.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, let's get to the elephant in the room, and the elephant being Corey Seager. He had a rehab assignment with AA in Frisco and had a pretty good game. Had a home run and also very nice play in the hole. Which I'm not sure that's exactly what we want to see him doing, right? At this point, is going in the hole and turning and making. I mean, he showed he could play shortstop still, and that's great. And I guess maybe you need to see that, but he's also rehabbing, so I don't know if I want to see exactly that.
Listen, I mean, if he's going to play shortstop for the Rangers in the middle of a pennant race, he needs to show he can play shortstop. And Zeke Duran has done a really good job at shortstop in his absence, but Corey's still a really good defensive shortstop. And I think it was important to show that he could, go deep into the hole and twist his body. And now we'll see how he recovers as we record this. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. I'm not sure. I don't know what to expect when I get to the ballpark today. He could be here. If he's not here today, I don't think he shows up until Friday in Houston because there's an off day on, not an off day, but a day game Thursday. So if he plays another game in Frisco, I don't think he joins the team until Friday. But he looked great last night. The homer was to the opposite field. He had a walk, the good defensive play, and I have been all over the map on this thing. But if you're playing decent baseball and you've got the ability to add Corey Seager back to your lineup at the trade deadline, boy, what an acquisition that potentially is.
Yeah, it is, because one of the things that and I wrote about this on Monday, and you have written about it, about the whole Corey Seager situation. Should they trade him? Should they keep him? A 32-year-old shortstop who's got 5 years left, 31 million a year with a bad back. And my feeling right now is that obviously, if you traded Corey Seager, and that's certainly something that could be discussed, you're selling low at this point. And what you would get back, I'm not sure of, and you're not going to get complete relief on that salary either. Don't you think that someone else, if you were to trade him, you'd have to pay down some of that, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure. Unless you took on some quote unquote bad contracts as well. Like I know Boston is a team that he couldn't block a trade to, and look, the Red Sox would love to move on from Trevor Story's contract. I think there's about 60 million left in Trevor Story's deal, maybe. So that would offset some money, and then maybe the Rangers take on somebody like Christian Campbell, who's not been very good, but is on a long-term contract as a young prospect, and that makes the money wash out almost entirely. So there are ways you could make the money wash out, but you're not going to trade him for a premium package of young prospects purely for that. No.
No.
And listen, I mean, I think it's an exercise the Rangers have to go through, but look, they're playing good baseball right now, and the it's hard for me at this point after they beat Tampa Bay, and this is the hell that is the trade deadline. Do you get too moved by emotions? It's hard for me to see them trading him. To your point about trading him for low value, yes, you'd be trading him probably for lesser value. Here's the flip side, Kevin. Come this winter, if you try to trade him, he's got 5 and 10 rights. He earns those with the last day of the season, and at that point in time, he's got a complete no trade. So he'd need to be motivated to leave here. And that's all. Those are all really complicated decisions. I asked Corey if he would be willing to move off shortstop in the near future, and he gave me a pretty flat no. So I don't know how the Rangers handle this, but if right now you're looking to maximize this season, adding Corey back to the middle of the lineup, it's hard to overlook that. The only risk for me is, does he get hurt again, or does this identity of the Rangers that is this kind of like hardworking, rely on one another, don't put too much emphasis on one guy, does that somehow get broken up because you've got this guy in the middle of the lineup who is kind of an artiste and who either slugs or doesn't do it?
I get that, but and certainly they had a different identity in 2023, right? They were all slugging back then, so
Right.
he fit that identity with everyone else. Here's my thinking on all this. All of this scrappy, energetic kind of play is really good, and it's really fun to watch, and certainly a team needs all that. But when you're going down a dark alley at night, you want some big guy there for protection. And he is that. He is a two-time World Series MVP. What that says to me is that this is a guy who rises to the occasion. And we saw that. We saw the excitement that even he had in 2023 when he kind of morphed out of that kind of droid state that he seems to be in most of the time, and became this larger than life character. So that to me, as Skip Schumacher said the other day, and I think he was trying to make this point, is that this guy is a presence. This guy, other teams have to game plan for. They are worried about this guy. And they're not. I don't say other than Wyatt Langford, they're not really worried about anybody else. They might try to pitch around him a little bit, but not much. You can get those guys out. I mean, Jake Burger's having a really good year. He swung out a couple of pitches, Tuesday night that were just ridiculously inside, and he can't get to those kind of balls. Corey Seager, when he is right, he is a borderline Hall of Fame player. And as you and I have discussed
when
before,
he's right, he's a hoarder. When he's right, he is a Hall of Fame player.
Well, he probably is, and so as a 2-time World Series MVP. So the thing for me is at this point, and you and I have discussed this, is that we don't know what the labor situation is going to bring about next year in baseball. We don't even know if there's going to be a season, a full season, whatever. We know that the owner, Ray Davis, is a hawk and wants to hold a hard line on this, and he wants to get a salary cap and all of that. And if he gets his way, that may be what happens here. And that what that says to me is that you got to go all in now. And look, it's different this year from last year or the year before because last year they were 5 games over at the was it at the All-Star game or at the trade deadline? Deadline. So they're not even quite there yet. They're not as good a position now as they were last year. But the league is different this year. We see all
playing from behind last year. They're 2 games ahead of the Astros right now, 2.5 ahead of Seattle with a tiebreaker over Seattle. Last year they were not in first place. They were playing from behind.
Right. And so this year what we're seeing is that who in the American League really scares you? You know, they're playing the Rays now. This is the thing to me about the Rays. You got to admire this organization. They do an unbelievable job. I mean, but they're a little too brainy for me about the constant, we're looking for this matchup. We're taking this guy out. We're moving this guy here. We're doing this. That all works over a 162 game season. I don't see that working in the playoffs. You got to decide because when you're playing the numbers all the time, the numbers only really work over a large sample size. In a small sample size, the numbers don't work as well, And so you got to have players and you got to have guys who are ready to step up and make those, make the plays when they have to. So I'm not saying that
this Tampa Bay team has some guys that are capable of doing that between Diaz and Aranda and Caminero for sure. They've got good players and they've got good pitching. They're a very good team, and the American League playoffs are going to go through Tampa Bay, and that's why I feel like, if the Rangers can steal one more game here in Tampa Bay and win a series in Tampa against a team that, has the number 1 seed in the AL playoffs, it's as strong an argument as this team could make to ownership, free up some money to take on some contracts, and to management, move what you have to move to get us the opportunity to win.
Yes.
I also want to say this, Kevin. As we sit here today on Wednesday morning, the Rangers are 55-52. The Chicago White Sox, who won 2 of 3 in Arlington, are 55-51. Rangers are a half game away from having a bye in the first round. That's where they're at this year. That's how much the American League West is, the American League as a whole, not just the AL West, just how much the AL has changed.
Absolutely. And, I've had discussions with readers who have said, because I wrote last month, I didn't think that Ray Davis was going to pop for anything at that point. And I had some discussion with some readers who thought, isn't it important? Isn't it just something to get into the playoffs? Because what can happen, in baseball and these short series and people get hot and things happen. And they do have the kind of players, especially when you've got Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi at the top of your rotation. Then if Mackenzie Gore pitches well, that's a pretty good threesome right there. So there are things that can happen here. Isn't that good enough? Yes, I think it is, especially for an organization like the Rangers. Now, you can make the other argument that, well, look how bone dry the farm system is now. And isn't it really for the health of the organization, don't they need to be making some moves here to replenish, to get rid of some of these older players and get ready to do something new? And go ahead.
The answer to that is very clear. This team resides in the number 4 market in the country, and the Rangers don't have a great farm system. And yes, they need to replenish their farm system some, but farm systems don't matter nearly as much and aren't nearly as precious as the opportunity to make a run in the playoffs. You and I think we come from a different generation where we saw baseball as, and you're so old, you know, if you won your league, that was it. There were no playoffs. You went straight to the World Series. You know, I come from an era where there were two divisions in each league and you had one round of playoffs. And so making the playoffs for me was an unmitigated success. And I still kind of have that. I still kind of hold on to that, even with the expanded playoffs, that if you make the postseason, your season has been a success. Everything after that is a coin flip. Um, and the other part of that whole conversation is we shouldn't be arguing here whether the Rangers can go for it or build their farm system. They are in a market in which they should be able to, year after year, do what Dave Dombrowski and the Philadelphia Phillies do and say, we are going to win and we're going to invest money in our major league club. What Ray Davis has done, my biggest flaw with what he's done since the Rangers won the World Series, is he invested 105, $110 million in four players and has done nothing to keep up with the costs after that. And you can't operate a successful team long term if you've got that amount of money tied up in four players and you're trying to cut your payroll to 200 million. It just doesn't, the math doesn't math. And so I think the other come to church moment for the Rangers is they really need to understand, or ownership needs to understand the long-term plan here. And I know the TV situation has been transient, difficult, all of that, but this market deserves a top 10 payroll year after year.
Well, there's no question about that. I love that speech. That was very good, and certainly my feelings as well. That this is been a constant with the Rangers. You know, it predates Ray Davis. And this is what Tom Hicks did, right? When he went out and got Alex Rodriguez and overpaid
It's always
for him.
been the tippy toe. We'll dip our toe into the pool, but then when the pool gets deep, we want to go back to the shallow end.
Yeah, they chicken out, and that has been the approach. No question about that. But I'm with you on all of this, obviously, and that's why in this market, the owners that they've had. That's why, frankly, I kind of appreciate the Las Vegas people. Is that whatever they got in mind here, whatever they want to do, I think they that all got screwed up a little bit with obviously with Luka Doncic, but they're going to spend money. They're not afraid of spending it. They don't care about aprons. They don't care about any of that. They're going to spend money, and that is refreshing because we don't see a lot of that. Tom Gallardi is the owner of the Stars. He's willing to spend, but hockey is so far behind everybody else. When you're talking about, wow, really going out there to give one of your star players a $15 million deal, that shows you how far behind hockey is.
That's the cost of a number 3 or 4 starting pitcher in the big leagues at a bare minimum right now.
So. Oh, absolutely. Jock Peterson's making more than that. And speaking of Jock Peterson, he's having a pretty good year.
Before we get out of the Rangers segment, I need to make an announcement.
Oh my gosh, an announcement!
Yes, I don't know if you're aware of this, Kevin, but there was a $800 million power Mega Millions lotto last night.
Yeah,
and I am in Florida. And as you know, all lotto winning tickets are sold in Florida, usually somewhere in the Tampa Bay area. So I purchased a Mega Millions ticket here in Florida, and guess what?
What?
The winning ticket was sold in Florida.
Florida?
It was sold in Florida. It was not me, but I just want you to know that I participated and did my best.
I'm going to tell you something. If I had won the Mega Million thing, I would not be doing this podcast right now.
If I had won the Mega
Million, I'd be running naked down the middle of Delroy Drive in Dallas, Texas, right now. If I had won that,
that seems like a weird thing to do. But if I had won that, there would be big bonuses in it for you as my podcast partner. There would be a big bonus in there for our podcast guest today. Do you want to introduce who our guest is?
Our guest coming to us from lovely Oxnard, California, is Calvin Watkins. Calvin, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
It's early out there, isn't it, Calvin? What time is it out there? Is it like 4 o'clock in the morning?
2:30.
2:30. Well, then we didn't even get you up.
No, I'm still. That's gotten around to the home office that I go to bed late every night.
Yeah.
The party scene in Oxnard is
unbelievable,
outrageous.
It's unbelievable. Listen, I'll tell you something.
Calvin's got the morning news house out there. How's that looking?
I'm following the Rangers lead here. You got to get a big house when you go to training camp and just have parties and dinners all night long.
That's what we do.
Calvin finds the party wherever he goes. Calvin is the
party. The party finds Calvin.
I like that. That's it. Exactly. That's it. So, Calvin, you're out there in lovely Oxnard. First of all, what's the temperature there?
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! It's I'll give you exact temperature since we're in the accuracy business.
I can tell you, it's 98
degrees, 69 degrees,
69.
The high today is going to be 79, and it's a heat advisory. These conditions are expected by 10 a.m. Friday, July 31st. Additional alerts: coastal
heat advisory,
high surf advisory. High surf advisory. You got to be careful, boys.
All right, don't go in the water and hydrate.
Yeah.
Now, what crazy stuff did Jerry Jones say yesterday?
Jerry was very subdued. Maybe that's what happens as you get older in life. You get subdued. You're not as feisty as you used to be. A couple of things he mentioned. He said if we're in contention, whether it be for a title or playoff berth, and we need to make a trade, he's willing to do that. And he's willing to give up one of those first-round picks that he has. He also said when they were trying to trade for Max Crosby this offseason, he said the Cowboys are the ones that did not pull out of the deal. That was the Raiders that pulled out of the deal. So those were the two biggest things that he said. There was really wasn't a third thing that he said because everything else is just filibuster.
Yeah, he's good at that. Yeah, you can tell. I don't know. I say that. I think we're pretty expert after all these years in Jerry speak. So you can tell when he's just trying to sell something, as opposed to when, yes, this is really true. I think that, and Jerry reads the paper. He reads the stories. He keeps up with what everybody's saying. And we've been writing stuff about them saying that, look, they got a great offense, no question about that. And they've got the defense has to be better than it was last year. It could not be any worse than it was last year. They made some additions. They've added players. They've got a defensive coordinator that even though this is his first time around as a DC, he seems to be well respected. And
they're treating him like Tom Landry, I mean, but hey, what do I know?
Well, I know it kind of seems like it, doesn't it? I really kind of amazed by it. Because here's the thing: if Christian Parker doesn't go out there and put up a league average defense, what are people going to say then?
He's Dave Campo.
They could say that. That might be the case. He better really do something. I will say this: he's a Vic Fangio guy, and what's not to like about Vic Fangio, right? Great defenses in Denver and in Philadelphia, and he's just done a terrific job wherever he's been.
So I heard he wasn't a good tipper.
Not a good tipper?
Yeah. Really? What's not to like about Vic Fangio?
I don't remember about the tipping, but
I just made that up. But
I would like to do a tipping segment one day during the football season. I'm a little over this tipping situation. I go to Starbucks for a coffee that's $2.85, and they want a tip. So
I'm intimidated by the thing because they're looking at you while you're about to press the button on a little thing, and if I don't press something, I feel like I'm going to walk out of there shamed.
And then they start to know you if you go to the same Starbucks. They go, "Hey, Calvin, how you doing?" I go, "Golly, they know me," so I got to give them $1.
What's up, tightwad?
You go to Subway, they're making a sandwich, they want a tip. I'm like, what are we doing? But I digress.
Kevin doesn't tip. I don't know if you're aware of this. He says that once you're over 65, you don't have to tip anymore.
I'm a huge tipper. I'm giving them $10, $12, for whatever it is that makes them happy. That's me. Just like Johnny Appleseed going around dropping money everywhere I go. All right, so let's get back to Jerry though. So we know that Jerry can be he likes to obfuscate. Let's say that. But in this particular situation, you talk about him being quiet. I think it's because he thinks this is a good team. And it certainly is a good offense and a chance to be good defensively. And we'll see about that. Now, Calvin, I really trust your opinion because last year, going into the year, I asked you before the season, so what do you think? He goes, I think this team could win 7 games. And you were right. Unbelievable. You're right on the nose. So what makes us think that this team could go from winning 7 games to winning 10, 11, 12, whatever it's going to take for them to make a deep run into the playoffs?
There's so many unknowns with this team. Right now, I got them winning 9 games, maybe 10, right? 9 is not going to get you in the playoffs. 10 might win the division, maybe, depends on what Philly does. And I think the Giants and the Commanders are better. They got so many question marks, more so than ever before. Like, I don't know who the middle linebacker is. I don't know who's going to be their top pass rusher. I'm not sure who the number 2 cornerback is, right? They got questions at left tackle because they're creating this competition between Tyler Guyton and Nate Thomas. So, Javonte Williams, who's their starting running back who they re-signed, had a career year last year. So when you have a career year, we want to know what you're going to do the next year. George Pickens had a career year last year, and the worst thing he did off the field was miss the team bus to Vegas, right? So now he's going into a contract year, so I'm wondering what his mindset's going to be like. And then Dak Prescott gets hurt every other year, and now we're in the other year where he gets hurt, and he had a sore knee in training in the offseason program. So there's so many question marks. I'm amazed that Jerry's thinking we have a great team. I think if you're finished last in defense, of course you got to go up, right? So, but how far are you going to go up? I asked Jerry yesterday, how close are you to contending? And he said, I looked at the 2 teams that went to the Super Bowl last year in Seattle and New England. That tells me how close we are, because if they could do it, we could do it too.
That's not an answer. Calvin, I have a question for you, because after 30 years of doing this, like, I've finally gotten to the point in spring training where I realize, if you go to camp in spring training and outside of a reliever or a number 5 starter, if you've got questions about starting positions and there's battles open, that you're sunk. Does the same apply in football? Because you just mentioned a bunch of starting positions that are or impact positions that are still open. Does that mean they're sunk?
I don't think they're sunk. They have some candidates, like take cornerback, for instance. DaRon Bland's probably going to start at one of the spots, right? But he's had a broken toe. He suffered a broken toe the last 2 years. Now, this injury occurs because he's got a size 14 foot, and the football cleats are narrow. So he's got to find a custom-made cleat so his foot won't keep breaking. But when he plays, he's a pretty good player. However, I don't know who the number 2 corner is, and if they get Siobhan Revel or Kobe Durant out there and they are capable, then that position is okay. Football's a little different because you have some candidates that could play. You're just trying to find the best candidate that could play.
Let's get this guy some shoes. Can we take up a collection here? I mean, what a situation that is. What are they making him wear? Size 12 shoes? I mean,
no, because his foot is so big. Me and him talked about this.
Cut off the ends of his size 12 shoes. His feet stick out. His toes stick out to the ends of them. I mean, what the heck? Oh my gosh. The problems are much more extensive than we thought. Holy
Pretty
cow.
bad out there. Me and him had a long talk about this because when he first broke his foot, doctor said, you might do this again. Okay?
Because your shoes are too small.
But the shoes are the size it's supposed to be, but his foot is so big and the football cleat is narrow. So he was showing me this in the locker room, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm trying to be a reporter and figure this out. So hopefully he's got a shoe that's what is that? 3E? That's 3 wide, whatever it is. Yes,
yeah,
Evan.
whatever it is.
I know Evan wants to say something.
I don't even have a punchline for that. This whole segment is a punchline.
I've never seen Kevin laugh like this before.
Make a wide version of the cleat. Send him out there in gladiator sandals for crying out loud.
Oh, DaRon Bigfoot Bland. I love it. This is great.
I never knew he had such a big foot.
Yes.
Bigfoot. How can you not call him that? I'm calling him that from now on.
Bigfoot, exactly.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. All right.
Broken up by Sasquatch.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, good. Oh, we got. Come on, we got to tighten it up. Let's be professional here. Let's go. Come on, man.
I don't know. You guys made me break character there.
Oh, okay. All right. Come on. Here we go. Okay, I'm ready.
You ready?
Let me ask you this about the whole situation at left tackle. Let's get away from this defense and Bigfoot. So at left tackle, they got. So now they're talking about. All right, maybe we will pump or kick Tyler Smith out to left tackle here a little bit. I guess just to throw the fear of God into Tyler Guyton and Nate Thomas, or are they serious about it? What's the deal? What's going to happen there?
Brian Schottenheimer said Tyler Guyton's going to start training camp at left tackle, but he wants to move guys around a little bit. So you mentioned Tyler Booker, who's the right guard. He might see some snaps at center. But since the moment Tyler Guyton was drafted under the Mike McCarthy administration, it seems as if the team has been always trying to get rid of Tyler Guyton for some reason. And that's telling me that they made a mistake with Tyler Guyton, right?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, they made a mistake. Yes, they did.
Yeah, I think they did. So because every year they're talking about he's competing for his job. Now, he's always hurt. He missed like 5 games last year because of injury. But he started all his games at left tackle. They're unsure about him. They got Nate Thomas. He's a kid that they hope can challenge him a little bit. But it is a problem. I think they're not convinced that he's the future at left tackle. So it wouldn't surprise me in 2027 that they spend a first-round pick on a left tackle because I think they feel like they don't have one. And this is a kid they just drafted 3 years ago.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. What is so bad about Tyler Smith playing left tackle? Now, I realize everybody says he might be the best guard in the game, and that's terrific. But a left tackle is more valuable than a left guard. And we know what they did with Larry Allen, right? They moved him around, guard, tackle, whatever they wanted, and he went gladly wherever they put him, and he was a Hall of Famer wherever they put him. In my mind, if he's not quite as Hall of Fame at left tackle as he is at left guard, I don't care. If this is what makes you a better football team, and this is what's going to keep Dak Prescott upright and safe in the pocket, him playing there, and if you've got some reasonable fill in there at left guard, and I'm assuming that would be who?
You could say TJ Bass, but that goes back to Evan's point about baseball. When he talked about, hey, you have all these ifs, like we need a middle reliever, we need a second baseman, all this kind of stuff, then you really don't have one, right? The problem with moving Tyler Smith from left guard to left tackle is that the teams that you play in the division, they have fantastic defensive tackles. And you need your interior offensive line to be very good. That's why they have Tyler Booker at right guard and Tyler Smith at left guard. So, and even the Cowboys, they have upgraded the interior of their defensive line because that's what the Eagles did, right? The Giants have a fantastic interior front. They're going to play the Rams later in the year. We know what they have, right? So it's almost, you can't have all pros at all 5 positions on the line. But I think from this exercise, they want Tyler Smith at left guard, and they're hopeful that Tyler Guyton can play much better at left tackle. If not, then yes, Tyler Smith is going to go to left tackle. But for right now, I think they're going to try to see if it works. But we'll find out in the scrimmage with the Rams in about a month or so.
A month. And as you have noted, Tyler Smith wants to know: am I a left guard or am I a left tackle?
Because he wants some more money. Because you're gonna put me on left tackle, that's a different price point. You know what I'm saying? So
sure,
yeah, right,
sure.
So they make you the publisher, you're gonna want to raise. You know.
Yeah, and that's not next. And here's the other problem is the middle linebacker situation. I think for all the things that they did, I think they made incremental improvements everywhere, right? The guys they brought in, they look better. I do think that was a big pickup getting Caleb Downs. He's terrific, and I think he's going to be a difference maker in their secondary. But they're mostly, the rest of them are incremental, improvements. They needed a big time improvement at middle linebacker. And when we're talking about DeMar being overshown, and I know we don't use terms like middle linebacker anymore and strong side and weak side and all that kind of stuff. But is he really a middle linebacker? Is that really play best to what he does? It seems to me I want him running. I want him moving to the ball. I don't know if I want him jammed up in the middle. And we saw there was a lot of speculation about what the Dolphins with Jordan Brooks, another Texas Tech linebacker, who's done really well. And of course, they ended up signing him to a long-term deal. So was it a mistake for them not to have brought in a ready-made middle linebacker to man that? Unless is D. Winters going to possibly do that, a former TCU linebacker?
In previous years, they have brought in legitimate middle linebackers. They just haven't worked. Going back to Eric Kendricks when he was
they couldn't play
for Mike Zimmer. He couldn't play, right? So they brought in legitimate middle linebackers who couldn't play. So now they decided, let's bring in guys who've never played middle linebacker before and turn them into middle linebackers. So that's DeMar and Overshawn, and that's even D. Winters, who played with Fred Warner, who watched how to play the position but never played the position, right? Yeah. So those are the two main candidates. One of the things Christian Parker talked about, and I agree with you, Overshawn is a sideline-to-sideline guy. And we mentioned that to Parker, and he goes, okay, that's cool, but he can still be a sideline-to-sideline guy. He just has to start from point A. That's the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. And he can still make plays all over the field. And Overshawn, and you have to remind me on this category, I didn't really watch a lot of him at Texas, but Overshawn said he played middle linebacker at UT. So, and I don't know if he's got revisionist history here or not, but everyone around here is like, this is going to be fine if it's Overshawn or D. Winters.
And I've said this before about Overshawn. At Texas, there were times he flashed and was good, but I got to tell you, he didn't stand out to me there.
Really?
Which is, he was a 3rd round pick, right?
Right.
If he, the way he looks now and the way he's played for the Cowboys when he's healthy, he looks like a 1st round pick. So I don't know what the difference was in those situations. I don't know if Texas just didn't use him correctly. I don't know, but it didn't flash at Texas like he has with the Cowboys so far. And you had to be concerned about the injury history with him too, right? I mean, he's had real problems staying on the field. So yeah, I'm with you on they're still thin at some really critical positions, and then of course there's the pass rusher, and that would be the one thing to me. If Jerry was going to have to add something, that's what you go out to get. That's what you trade a 1st round pick for, not for anything else, right?
Right. Yeah, he tried to do that by getting Max Crosby, but that didn't work out. And he was coming off knee surgery, I think, right? Yeah. So, and the Cowboys know about injuries, right? Dr. Cooper is one of the best in the business. So, I just think when they traded Micah Parsons last year, it was over, right? And now they've been chasing his replacement. And that tells me you shouldn't have made the trade. You shouldn't be chasing his replacement because he's an elite player, right? And
well, you let your money get mad in that deal.
Yeah, right. And Will McClay, he's not mad at me anymore, but he sent me a text saying, how many times are you going to mention this trade? And I go, okay, I apologize. So I'm not
going
going
to tell you guys, I don't know that it's possible to have a podcast in this town about professional sports and either mention the Doncic trade or the Parsons trade. And who knows? Maybe after this week, maybe mention the Seager trade, because those two trades are just so mind blowing that they're going to hear about them until the end of time.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I've talked to people, with the Mavericks organization, and they're the same way. I even had lunch with one of the big wigs one day, and I think the whole point of the lunch was he wanted me to stop making fun of Nico Harrison. And it's like, come on, man. You make a trade like that, you got to live with it. And especially with that kind of impact, because not only were those guys really great players, they're really great young players. And so you don't trade that kind of young talent. And of course, Jerry all of a sudden got religion after that trade about, oh, we got to have good defensive tackles. Well, you never spent any money on defensive tackles before that. Why all of a sudden are defensive tackles so important to you? And so you go out and trade one of the best pass rushers in the game, which is a more important position, which is a harder thing to find. And to your point, Calvin, it's exactly right. You went out and made that trade without any thought about it. Now, this is what we're going to do behind it. We're going to make this trade. You're not going to like it, but we're going to bring in this guy, and Rashawn Gary is not that guy. He's a kind of a poor man's DeMarcus Lawrence to me, if he's even that. And because that's pretty good. I'd take another DeMarcus Lawrence for sure. And maybe they're, are they going to get that in Malachi Lawrence? Is he anything like that, Calvin?
Well, he was the other first round pick that we don't talk a lot about, and we'll see. They have Rashawn Gary, they got Malachi Lawrence, they got Sam Williams, who they've moved from defensive and outside linebacker. They got your boy Donovan Izraku, who had 2 sacks last year. He's coming off hip surgery. They moved Maris Leofau, who was an inside linebacker to outside linebacker. So they got all these guys. It's funny you say that because Stephen Jones had said last year that we're going to scheme up pass rush, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I see Myles Garrett, you don't need to scheme him up. You just say go,
Yeah.
right? You see Micah Parsons, you just say go, right? I'm very surprised that they have not tried to get Von Miller. Every time he's been available, the Cowboys are like, we're good. And now, and you can say, well, they had Micah and they had Lawrence, whatever, right? But now you don't have really, I don't know what you got, right? And he's out there and they won't get him. Like last year, they got Jadeveon Clowney, right? And he was their best pass rusher. He showed up like almost a week before the season, 2 weeks before the season started, right? And Clowney's still out there, but I don't think he fits Christian Parker's scheme, right? He's a 3-4 guy, and Clowney's like, I've played a 3-4 in Houston. What are you talking about? So there are guys out there for them to get, but they won't get them right now. I think they want to see what they have. And like I said, after that scrimmage against the Rams, that might tell us a little bit more about this defense.
Yeah, that's a little late into the whole party to me to be making that kind of move. I don't know. Maybe I've drunk too much Kool-Aid here, but I do think the Cowboys have an opportunity here if everybody stays healthy. When Louis Riddick says on ESPN that there are no excuses, for the Cowboys. Well,
I saw that. I was like, what is he talking about? They haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. What excuses are we talking about?
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's crazy to say that. Plus, if your quarterback gets hurt, well, you're screwed. So there's all kinds of things that can end up being excuses if you win or lose or whatever. But I will say I do think that they have an opportunity here, but they cannot screw this up. And I think even Jerry realizes that. It's going to require some real things happening here. Starting at. In fact, can they just get the defense lined up? That was the issue last year, which was just ludicrous, right? That the guys were lost, and you could just tell watching the game, from on TV. You have guys looking around like, what are we doing here? It just how could it? Tell me this, Calvin. How could it have been so bad last year? Was it all Matt Eberflus's fault, or was it just you've got guys here who just don't get it? What was it?
It was a little bit of everything. I think the communication was bad on the field. So then Eberflus changed the calls, right? He tried to simplify it, and it was still messed up. And then, Eberflus is not a bad coach, right?
Right.
And then you probably had some players that couldn't comprehend it. And then you had guys like Trayvon Diggs, he's freelancing out there. So they wanted him to play zone. He's playing man, and he's got 2 bad legs. So and they had linebackers, that couldn't play anymore, right? And
then he didn't have 2 big feet,
right? He had 2 big feet. Then they lose Bigfoot Bland, right? So he's gone. So it was a combination of things. Huh?
Bigfoot Bland. That sounds so great. It's like Too Tall Jones.
This is great.
This is great.
We gotta end right there. Like from now on in the Dallas Morning News and on DallasNews.com, DaRon Bland will be referred to as Bigfoot Bland. And folks, you're just gonna have to get used to that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Calvin, listen, we appreciate you getting up so early. Or I don't know, you probably never even went to bed.
I went to bed.
We appreciate it. It's always good to have your insight. And we will be keeping up with you and everybody else out there. And try not to have heat stroke out there when it gets up to 79.
I wore a pullover yesterday at dinner, so it was a little chilly.
I don't want to hear it.
For the record, it's 98 degrees here. It's 98. God. So anyway, live with that. All right, that's going to do it for our podcast this week. We thank you for coming out and listening to it, and hopefully you got something from that, and we didn't laugh too much. We try not to have such a good time most of the time. So if this was your first outing with us, so anyway,
don't worry, it's easy to be miserable around me.
Yeah, there we go. So from everybody in here to everybody out there, thanks, and we'll see you next time.